Welcome to ASHA's IS Institute. This is our website www.asha.com. We upload current affairs here daily. Looking at current affairs for today, 20th November 2016. So on Sunday there are no editorials. So it will be only the news which will be discussed. These are the news items here uploaded, plus the PDF is also available so that you can download it. The news items for 20th November, Sunday. We have picked up 10 news items from the Hindu newspaper. We'll discuss them in detail. The first one, India begins to drill into the... So this is regarding an Indo-Norwegian joint project in eastern part of Antarctica in this region called Dronning-Maud Land. So which is characterized by loosely connected ice shelves along its 2000-kilometer long coastline. So Antarctic is also seeing ice melt and the global sea levels are rising. So there is scientific expedition to understand this phenomena. So Indian scientific experiments are also being undertaken in this region. So this is a joint Indo-Norwegian project. So to understand it too, let's look at Antarctica first. This is Antarctica, the continent in the southern region. This is the South Pole. You can see its location. Australia lies here, Indian Ocean, India up here. This is Madagascar, Africa, the island nation here, and African continent. And then this is South America. So Antarctica has no habitation. So it is the only uninhabited continent in the world. But then there are countries claiming it. This is Dronning-Maud Land. This lies in the Norwegian claim region. So we can look at that too. So these are the claims being made over Antarctica. This is the overlapping claim. UK, Argentina and Chile, their claims overlap. This is the Norway, as I said, it is a joint Indo-Norway project because our station also lies here. India has had 3 research stations in Antarctica. One has been turned into a support base. So we started in 1983. The first research station set up was Dakshin Gangotri. So that had been submerged under the ice. So later it has been converted into a support base, that region, and we have gone 90 kilometers inwards and have established our station Maitri up here. Then in Australia we have commissioned our 3rd research station, presently functional 2nd, that is Bharti. So that was commissioned last year in 2015. So that is in the Australian division. So these are the claims, as you can see too. Then this is unclaimed New Zealand. This small part is claimed by France. So there is an Antarctic Treaty System too, which ensures that the Antarctic continent will be used only for scientific expeditions, scientific experiments, and there can be no military activity on the continent. So that is, countries are bound. All these countries which claim are also bound, and there are other signatories too. Even India is a signatory to this Antarctic Treaty System. So that is Antarctic Treaty and all relevant documents along with it. So this you can see Maitri lies here. So this is the coastline here, and then this is the southern ocean. So claim lies beyond the continent too, in the waters too. So you can see here, this is the Norwegian claim. So that is about this. We have one research station also in Arctic, that is Himadri, which we established in 2008. And for Antarctic, the nodal organization in India is National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research, Goa, which is under Ministry of Earth Science. So that will be the nodal agency also for this Indo-Norwegian project in news. Then the next news item is good cholesterol may not help with heart disease. So we know about good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. What are these two? You can have a look here as it is shown. This is HDL, high density lipoprotein. So this is the cholesterol content and this is the protein content. So high density lipoprotein, you can see cholesterol is highly dense, condensed, and this is the proteins which are also more, and this is low density lipoprotein, which you can see the cholesterol molecule being bigger and lesser of protein. So HDL is called good cholesterol and LDL is called bad cholesterol. So what are the functions of these two? What is understood till now is that LDL results in generation of plaque, this accumulation, and then it causes blocking of the arteries, atherosclerosis, and the good cholesterol, which is shown here in this HDL blue color molecules, they absorb the cholesterols and they take them to the liver. So good cholesterol absorb these cholesterol molecules from the LDL, take them to the liver where it is converted into bile also. So it helps in the functioning of production of bile as well. So this is the function of HDL. So as you can see here, the functions also shown in detail. LDL, it clogs arteries, leads to coronary heart disease, heart attack and stroke. And this helps in eliminating these risks. That is what is known till date. Then it is also, HDL is also helpful in manufacture of bile, as I told you, building and maintaining cell membrane. So it forms the fat tissues around them, even insulating the nervous fibers with these tissues. It absorbs fat as well as fat soluble vitamins. So it helps in production of various hormones as well, adrenal gland hormones as well as sex hormones. So these are the functions of good cholesterol. So presently the study which has been done, it is showing that HDL, as it is understood that it has anti-inflammatory properties. Inflammation means swelling. So this anti-inflammatory property is associated with HDL. But then it is seen that in case of macrophages, which is a type of white blood cell which engulfs and ingests pathogens. So in these macrophages, HDL is having inflammatory property. So it results in inflammation of this cell, which helps in better attacking the pathogens. So it actually is beneficial in that way too. But since an inflammatory property has been discovered, then it is said there may be further research required to detect the risk involved with HDL also. Because high level of HDL, then if they cause inflammatory properties, then they will not be good for heart as well. So that is what the research says. Like in case of even the arteries, it says that if in early arteriosclerosis, if HDL levels are high and they result in inflammation of the macrophages, then it will be more effective in scavenging and elimination of lipids and cellular debris. But if it is an advanced stage, when the plaque levels are very high, then it may result into destabilization of plaque too because of inflammation of macrophages. So these are the new study which has come up, results of that. Then the next news item is paving the way to backpack-sized gravimetry. So gravimeter is a device which is used to measure gravity. So this precise value of gravity is important. It has various applications because it can be used for measurement of plate tectonics, the plate movements, then the plates on which the lithosphere's plates, that means the seismology means earthquake waves, understanding earthquake waves, searching for minerals underground. So all these require precise value of gravity because gravity varies with height and depth. So these gravimeters which are traditionally available are quite bulky. So what these researchers from Canada, USA and Germany have done presently is they have developed a gravimeter which is small in size, is a chip-based gravimeter which can be backpacked. So this gravimeter uses quantum technology. So quantum dynamics, the quantum nature of a substance becomes dominant when it is taken at very low temperature. So supercooled substance, that means temperature near absolute zero. So these supercooled substances are then condensed and coalesced into a form of Bose-Einstein condensate. What is this Bose-Einstein condensate? Is a state of matter in which all the atoms of the substance occupy the same quantum level. That is, they have a single wave function. So this Bose-Einstein condensate has been developed by these researchers, and then a laser is passed through it so that it divides, and then this kick which is provided to a part of it results in it shooting up, and other part then falls freely. And when these two waves interact, that is, interference of these two waves helps in measurement of the gravitational field which is acting on the substance, and it gives precise measurement. So this is the research presently. Then the next news item is WHO, means World Health Organization. It says Zika no longer a public health emergency. So the World Health Organization has presently announced that the Zika virus outbreak, which we saw in Brazil, which resulted in many deaths also, and many children, when pregnant women are affected, and even the child born is also affected by a disease called microcephaly, which is a deformation when the child has abnormally small size brain and heads. So this is a serious disease which affects the birth and is fatal as well. It results in deaths. Also in adult people, it results in a disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. So this can result in paralysis of the body movements and even death. So this disease, Zika virus, the World Health Organization is now saying that it's not a public health emergency of global nature, but it is still an epidemic which remains a challenge. So even Brazil has not liked the stand of WHO, but it says that a global alert is not required anymore. They will still work together on ensuring that Zika virus is tackled effectively. There is no treatment and no vaccine for the Zika virus. The Zika virus, as it spread also, you can see how it has expanded and spread to various countries which are affected by it, Brazil being most affected. So transmission takes place through Aedes. Aedes aegypti is the most prominent mosquito through which the Zika virus is transmitted. So this is even microcephaly, the abnormally small sized head which is seen in children, especially in Brazil. There have been many cases. And this is Guillain-Barré syndrome, the disorder of the peripheral nerves which results in paralysis. The brain and motor signals are not reached, which results in numbness of legs and arms. So that is paralysis, even may result in death. The next news item is lack of wait list for donor organs, a matter of concern. So National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization is the nodal organization which looks into organ transplant cases, but then we do not have a comprehensive data. So there is a state-wise data required. So even it is recommending that a state organ and tissue transplantation organization can be set up, and that should collate the data from all districts. Even government medical colleges and districts should collect this data, that how many organs have been donated, pledged, and what is the organ waiting list which is there for donation of organs. So all this, if there is in place, and a correct match can be made for people who are requiring organs and people who have pledged their organs. So bringing in awareness about this too, about the cadaver. Cadaver means dead body. So even people who are brain dead, how many are brain dead, and if they are ready to donate. Bringing in awareness about this thing too, about sensitization about the issue. Even in many cases it is seen that the patient has decided to donate his organ, but after his death the relatives, family members decline this. So even sensitization is essential. So this is regarding the onus for antimicrobial resistance, so which is presently seen prevalent worldwide. So owning up the onus, a part of this responsibility, the pharmaceutical companies have come forward now. There are 13 pharmaceutical companies who have formed a consortium, and they have assigned to themselves 4 commitments which they will undertake to reduce antimicrobial resistance by 2020. So these are some international as well as Indian pharmaceutical companies, some well known like Pfizer, Merck, Novartis, GlaxoSmithKline, and Indian drug companies like Cipla and Wockhardt. So they all have come together. The 4 specific commitments are: reduce the environmental impact from production of antibiotics, help ensure antibiotics are used only by patients who need them, continued education to provider and patient, means to the doctors also, improve access to current and future antibiotics, vaccine and diagnostics, explore new opportunities for open collaboration between industry and the public sector. So first, of course, we'll have to understand what is this antibiotic resistance. So I will show you. This is a pathogen, a bacteria, for example. So this is given here. So this is a normal bacteria. It will produce an enzyme because of which when the antibiotic is applied to it, it results in its death. But this is a mutant, a variation, a genetic variation of this normal bacteria. When on this antibiotics are applied, it does not produce any enzymes, and so it survives. And after surviving, it results in reproduction and producing more offsprings and spread of this antibiotic resistance. Now, what are the causes for antibiotic resistance to develop? So the causes are: one is overprescription of antibiotics. People taking antibiotics and being prescribed antibiotics even when they are not required. Patients not finishing their treatment. Say if there is a 3-day, 15-day dose treatment which is required, they leave it incomplete. Overuse of antibiotics in livestock and fish farming. Poor infection control in hospitals and clinics. Lack of hygiene and poor sanitation. And lack of new antibiotics being developed. So these are some of the reasons. Presently, what these pharmaceutical companies will undertake is they will develop awareness and systems for correct disposal of this waste which is generated in antibiotic production as well. So that is also resulting in antibiotic resistance spreading, mutation spreading. So this is what is seen. There was also a study being done, that is superbugs in supply chain, how pollution from antibiotics factories in India and China is fueling the global rise of drug resistant infections. So it is seen that pharmaceutical manufacturing units are located in developing countries and they export these antibiotics to developed world, while the wastage which is generated here results in spreading of antimicrobial resistance. So it is necessary that pharmaceutical companies take action on this matter. Even in India, it is seen that three major cities, Hyderabad, Delhi and Chennai, have high antimicrobial resistance. So where the pharmaceutical manufacturing units are also located. Then the next news item is WhatsApp governance works wonders for Bengaluru. So we are seeing that WhatsApp groups locally are developed, even resident associations based WhatsApp groups are formed, and then even in many policemen and residents both are members. So in one incident it is said that when a woman had her gold chain snatched, she put it on a WhatsApp group and immediately the local police, beat police was alerted and they chased the snatcher on their bike and caught him. So this shows how e-governance, or rather in this case when mobile is used, m-governance can work wonders. So it cuts down red tapeism. The red tapeism is a particular procedure which you have to follow in the government processes to get your things done. So it's cutting that entire red tapeism. So this is a benefit of it, but then there are some hindrances also. So because it will result in upper middle class and the middle class part of it, and the lower section of the population would be left off. So there's another example given when street vendors were moved out, hawkers were moved out from a particular location, and that without even consulting them whether they had the requisite rights or something. So this also shows that it may result in a lopsided governance as well. So measures need to be put in place to ensure that this works effectively. Some also have politicians on their group, so that also helps in better representation and governance in the region. Also, it is seen that in some cases there is political bickering on the group, abuse and forwards also. So that also dilutes the cause of the group. So there needs to be a check on this aspect. Plus, it also results in governance on the go. So it put pressure on the officers and policemen as well. So these are the aspects, but it is essential to take this forward. In many cases, it is seen that many officers actively stay part of these WhatsApp group, providing best governance to the people. Then the next article is cooperative banks to move apex court against RBI curbs. So this is regarding district cooperative banks. They have had a meeting because they have been barred by the Supreme Court from participating in exchange of demonetized high value currency notes. So now they are planning to move the Supreme Court against the RBI's decision, because this is affecting the lower middle class population to the rural population, lower strata population, which have the accounts in cooperative banks. So to facilitate the process which Supreme Court is also talking of, this could be an initiative. So we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court says on the matter. Then the next news item is Kashmir Valley back to life after shutdown. So we had seen Kashmir Valley facing a shutdown since July 8 when Burhan Wani, a militant commander, was killed in an encounter. So these separatist leaders who had this shutdown sustaining for now over 133 days. Finally, on 19th November 2016, this shutdown has been called off by these separatist groups, and now because the traders and all the people in Kashmir were also putting pressure on these separatist groups that the shutdown should end and they should be able to earn their livelihood now. So this has ended. Even the government, the police has lifted the ban on mobile internet services, which was also imposed with this. So this is the development which we see right now. So that's a good point. Then the last news item is Dalai Lama visits Mongolia despite China's objection. So Dalai Lama is on a 4-day visit to Mongolia, which is a neighbor of China. So he's meeting Buddhist worshippers here. China objects to it because it says that Dalai Lama is a separatist leader who is working for Tibet's independence. But over the years, Dalai Lama has also toned down his demand. He's speaking presently of Tibetan autonomy and not independence. So, and Mongolian government here also says that his visit has nothing to do with the government. He is meeting Buddhist worshippers. So it has not taken any action as of now. And you should know Dalai Lama has been given asylum in India. He lives in Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh. So this was given in 1959. So this also deteriorated relations between India and China, which eventually in 1962, 3 years later, we saw India-China war also took place. So these are the political developments here. You can see this is India, Nepal, Bhutan. You can see this is Sikkim region. This is Tibet region here. its capital in Lhasa, China with Beijing here, and Mongolia, which is capital Ulaanbaatar. So this is it for today. You can download the PDF file for this from the website. The description gives you the link address as well. Thank you.